Hello, and welcome to another episode of Creating Cultures That Outperform. Here we are today, episode 31 of Jerks at Work, the Lone Wolf. Haven't worked with too many of these, but I have had the opportunity, if you want to call it that, of working with a few of them. And I think this is a really, really interesting personality type. They just have this need for self-reliance. They've got to do it on their own. You don't want to put these people in situations that require a lot of coordination stuff. They're just going to muck it up. And it's an important personality to understand. There are fewer of these than others, but they're there and they just absolutely have to work on their own. So we're going to take a look at this personality type today. But I guess I started off right on that slide. I was on the wrong slide. This is the intro slide. So yeah, we're here in the series. You could see where the red dotted line is. We're moving on to the non-responder, but it's been a great series. And yeah, Tara, that's who they are. Your thoughts?
Yeah. This person, they really do prefer to just be left alone. They really, for whatever reason, whether it's from childhood, where they were the person that had to be relied on all the time, or if just they've learned kind of from past experiences that I'm the only person I can count on, is kind of what they think. And so they really do prefer to just be left alone. They feel like they can do it faster by themselves. Nobody is going to do it as well as I can. I don't need anybody. These meetings waste my time. I'll just handle it. All of those are things that are running through their mind and what they're telling themselves. And so as a result, they just feel like I need to work on my own. I need to be left
Yeah.
alone. I really do work better alone. I can have my own ideas. I don't need anybody's input. Everything else is just a distraction to me. I have my own way of doing things. And they really think that their way is the best way. And
Oh
that
yeah,
they're
they're
right.
convinced. They're convinced
Yeah.
that they're faster if they're just left alone, please. You're in my way.
Yeah.
So they offer their own set of challenges, I'll be honest
Yeah.
with you. One of the things I found with the few people I did have to work with who were like this is they could waste an incredible amount of time looking up stuff, trying to figure things out instead of just going to somebody because they didn't want to network and learn their way around and know who to go to. They weren't very vulnerable. And so they wanted to figure it out on their own, which could be
Yeah.
huge time waster, huge.
Yeah, they're very intelligent people and
Generally,
capable.
yeah.
Well, they can get things done. The problem is everybody needs help sometime. There's no
You're
one
right.
person that can just do things and do everything on their own all the time. But this is that person that feels like they can because they are intelligent. They are, pretty smart people. They feel like I don't need help. I can just figure it out, which they probably can, but they could move a whole lot faster if they would just get a little help.
Yep, absolutely. And I think, the what they say here is exactly what you'll find with them. Hey, I'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Let me go. I'll take care of it. I don't need your help. Thank you very much. They're not shy about saying, hey, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it.
Right. If they're working on something that's somebody is dependent on their output, it could really slow the progress of the team down. So,
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
they may figure it out, but how long is it going to take them to figure it out? And could we have been working on something else while we were waiting for this person to kind of figure everything out?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, there are, a bunch of things you certainly don't want to do with these folks. Um, you don't want to play into what they're doing and exclude them and let them get away with it because they do have a role to play and they've got to have a certain they got to collaborate to some degree. You
Yeah.
certainly, don't want to put them in a situation where they're going to have to coordinate a lot with other people. That's a disaster. And so where it says don't push for unnecessary collaboration, it's really true.
Mhm.
Play to
Yeah.
their strengths because they can be very good workers. They can be very bright and they can take ownership, which is a great thing.
Yeah. It's not that the person is not productive. The problem is you want to not let them be so productive on their own. Like you've got to pull them in when it's necessary. So this unnecessary collaboration, you don't want to just kind of force it, but there are
Yeah.
times when collaboration is necessary. And so you really do want to identify this person's strengths and respect that strength, right?
Yep.
But then you want to channel them and channel that energy into an area where it's productive and where they may be better suited for roles where they don't have to collaborate with other people. So, as a leader, you do want to pay attention to this person and not put them in charge of teams of people that have to collaborate with other people and that have a lot of interaction with a lot of people. You really want to channel this person's energy so that they are in roles where they can work independently and it's not going to cause any damage or any kind of impact to the team by them working independently. These type people do great with individual contributor type roles where they can kind of set their own pace and give them space, but keep them connected to people.
Yeah. You know, there are just fewer and fewer roles where you can be the lone wolf these days, in my
Yeah.
opinion. You know, things are much more complex, much more integrated. There's a lot more collaboration required, but you certainly want to put them as close to a role where they can, you know, be self-reliant. They have low social needs strength, so they're not going to want to spend a lot of time with people unnecessarily in their mind. You know,
Yeah.
it's interesting too, because, you know, if you're their boss, you know, you really want to encourage this shared ownership and try to say, look, here's on your assignment, you're going to need to work with these people to some degree. I know you like to do it on your own, but here's this assignment requires a certain amount of coordination with these groups of people. So, you know, we meet next. I want you to tell me how you're starting to work with them and lay it on them. I mean, I would go right for the reality of the situation because that's the best way to handle them is to let them know that they need to reach out to them.
Yeah.
Or so and so is going to reach out to you. Make sure that, you know, you connect with them and talk about what's needed. You know, set this stuff up.
Yeah, I love this. If you lead them, develop backup expertise. So you can always grow another expert. You can grow another SME. So if this
Mhm.
person has kind of been off on their own learning and they've kind of become a SME in a particular part of the organization and they don't want to collaborate with others, you can start to develop your own SME and make sure that you're getting that person networked and connected so that you don't continue to have that problem. Because when you got this person that's a bottleneck, because that's what they end up becoming, a
Oh
bottleneck.
yeah.
They slow down things so that you can't move as fast as you need to move as an organization because you're waiting on this one person. You can start to develop some other SMEs so that you don't have to continue to wait for that person.
Yeah, you know, when you get to the point where you do have to start really working around them, that's a problem. I think
Yes.
they gotta manage them out then, because
Yes.
that means there's a lot of coordination required. They're not doing it. You hopefully coach them, and you know, to have that backup ready to develop that other SME so that when the time comes, they got to move on. Yeah, I think that's a good plan, actually.
Yeah, you've gotta reduce that single point of failure
You do.
because
You've
the
got to.
person's not coachable, they're not willing to
Mhm.
work with others, they're kinda stuck and set in their ways, which sometimes that happens, then you can't let the whole organization suffer because of that,
Yeah.
'cause it's really causing a big impact to morale.
Oh, yeah. A
People
lot of collateral damage.
Yeah, they're getting frustrated because they feel like this person is shutting them out and they don't value what I bring to the table. It's very frustrating space to work in.
Well, you can't make it okay not to collaborate. If they can get away with it, then of course other
Yeah,
people might feel that, hey, well, they don't have to collaborate. Why should I?
right,
Right?
right.
That's always bad, and it does affect morale when they're able to not do what's required to get the work done with other people. I think it's a real problem.
Yeah,
So that's the importance of putting them in a role where there's less collaboration required. But there's very few roles where you could just come in and work on your own. It almost doesn't exist. And so
yeah,
they've
you miss
got to
a
know.
lot of opportunities and your team just gets very, very weak because now you start to get these silos that form where people feel like they have to protect themselves from this person. And so they start building these little silos. And innovation suffers. We've talked about this many, many times
Oh yeah, it
when
does.
when you start to have these types of personalities that are eroding morale and people don't feel like they're valued, creativity is going to suffer as a result because they won't feel safe enough to share ideas and to be creative. And so they'll start to just go and do the bare minimums. They'll do exactly what they're asked to do, nothing more, nothing less. And you slowly see that your organization is dying creatively.
Yeah, they can have a real big impact. I think they could be a very corrosive force if they're mismanaged. It's going to affect the culture. They're not going to be doing the collaboration they really need. So people are going to start, feeling negative about the place because the boss isn't doing their
Yeah.
job,
Yeah.
right? The boss isn't doing the job. And that affects morale, ultimately, probably affects delivery. Time and resources are constrained. So if they're mismanaged, these people are a big problem. And so if they're not coached and developed, lone wolves in this day and age are trouble. That's my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. I think it leads to such broken culture that,
Yeah.
a lot of what all the shows that we've talked about talk about how broken culture can impact the bottom line. So that's really what we're talking about here is this personality can ultimately destroy your profitability.
Well, if you let that culture go down, yeah, no
Yeah.
question about it. You know, the other thing is that, people do want to work together in general, and these people they are a real corrosive force, and as they start having a negative impact on the organization because they're not being managed right, it really does drive morale down. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, so the real issue. What do you think about this, Tara? The
Yeah.
real
So,
issue.
I said a little bit about this before, but I think a lot of the times this person that becomes the lone wolf is that person that has just over time they've learned that I'm the only person I can count on.
Yeah,
And
they've
when
been
they
let down.
start to depend on other people, they're afraid of that. They really feel like it's just too risky. So I better just do it all myself and take care of everything because I know I will get it done. And so that's the kind of person that ultimately that's what's happening under the surface. You may see them taking on all this leadership and I want to do it and I can handle it and I can get it done. But underneath, this person is really feeling like I'm the only person I can count on. I'm the only one
Yeah,
that can do it right.
yeah. I'm going to stay safe. I'm going to do it myself. I know it'll get
Yeah.
done. Right? Other people are going to let me down. It's got to date back to their childhood in these cases, right? So
Yeah.
they're an introvert that ended up in a rough situation or something, and they learn to be self-reliant, which can be good, but obviously you got to temper that in the workplace.
Yeah.
So we have another good one coming up here, episode 32, the non-responder. Everybody's worked with one of these.
Yes.
I mean, these are major jerks. I just always hated these people who went dark. Oh, how
Yeah.
annoying, right? So Terry and here have another episode every Wednesday at 3 o'clock. We're going on with the series. It just gets better and better. And I hope you can join us. So hope to see you there.
Yes. Bye for now.